Okay, last group. This is the fourth set. All the factoring on this page and the following pages, 1D, 2D, all the D pages are all grouping. Okay, and I know they're all grouping because you can see there are 4 terms instead of 3 terms. Okay, so when there are 4 terms, that tells you grouping. Okay, and more often than not, it's a higher power than just a squared. Okay, you see all these guys are cubed, k cubed, da da da. All right, so to group just means you do them 2 at a time. Okay, that's all it means. And the only way you can do them 2 at a time for these 3 by 3s, unless you know a special pattern. So this first one, let's take the first 2 terms and pull out what they have in common. So they have an 8 and they have an r squared in common. And that leaves inside an r minus 8. Okay, then take the second 2 terms, and what do they have in common? They have a 1 in common, and there's an r minus 8. First 2 terms go in their own parenthesis. The second 2 are the same, and they go in their own parenthesis. Done. Grouping. It's kind of a nice little trick. All right, here's 1. Okay, let's try number 3. First 2 together, they have 4v squared in common, so that leaves me a v minus 3. The second 2, remember, this is where it gets tricky. That negative 5, you have to pull out a negative 5 is what they have in common. V, which means this has to be a negative 3. Because you just have to make sure when you multiply it back in, 5v plus 15. It's got to give you that plus 15. And these 2 parentheses should be the same. So now 4v squared minus 5 goes, and the v minus 3 goes. Okay? Let's keep going. I know you're becoming factoring wonders at this. I don't know that question. All right, first 2. What do they have in common? They have a 7x in common, so that's going to leave me an 8y minus 5. And then the second 2, what do they have in common? They have a 2r, so that leaves me an 8y minus 5. First 2 guys go together. Second 2 go together. Done. So grouping's not so bad. Once you get the hang of grouping, it's okay. So let's look at a couple more before we stop. Here's 1. So let's do first 2. So they have a 2x squared in common, leaving me a 6x plus 1. And the second pair, here's the tricky part. Remember, if that's a negative there, pull out a negative term. So it's negative 5. So it'd be a 6x plus 1. Remember, those 2 terms, negative 5 times 6x and negative 5 times positive 1, have to give you what's in that circle above. So 2x squared minus 5 go together, and then the 6x plus 1 go together. Okay, so 1 more grouping, because I think you're probably tired of grouping. Let's try this one. 2 together, first 2. So what do they have in common? They have a 4v squared common factor, so that leaves me with 7v plus 4. Second 2, again, we have that negative, so we have to make sure whatever the common term is, we pull the negative out. So it looks like it's negative 3, and that would leave me a 7v plus 4. First 2 together, 4 squared minus 3. Second 2, their own. Done. Why?